pizza experience you've ever had in your life?
The best pizza
Most-
experience.
Most memorable.
Okay, I'll tell you. Can I go first?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Chicago. I was at Wrigley Field with some friends. We went to a game. The Cubbies were playing the Brewers. Now, I cannot remember the name of the pizza place, but we just walked straight down the street from Wrigley Field. It was a corner little shop, old. The train went right above us, and I remember waiting outside, and I was on the phone with my wife back at home here in Vegas, and I had to stop every few minutes because the train would just just right over our heads. Deep dish. We got inside, like it was this awesome pizza place. Man, I wish I could remember the name. I'm so horrible at names, man. I'm botching this story. But that was one of my favorite pizza moments, was sitting there in Chicago, having that Chicago deep pizza, just watch the Cubs play, the whole ambience of old school Chicago. That was one of my favorite pizza memories. Right.
You know what's cool about that? You hit on all the notes. First of all, you were with your friends.
Yes.
And that's what the pizza experience is about. It's about being with your friends. You were eating a pizza that's representative of the place that you were eating it in. You know, you're in Chicago and you're eating their iconic pizza, which could only have developed in that place.
Yeah.
You know, the whole experience is true to that one specific place, and that's what makes it so cool. You know, and it's communal. You know, and every time, you know, anytime you eat a Chicago pizza again, you're going to think of that moment. You know, you're going to think of that time that you were with your friends after a game and you're in Wrigleyville. You just watched an awesome game, and now you're with your friends having this memorable experience. You know, I mean, I bet you if you think about it, you can even like conjure up what the place smelled like.
Well, and I'm not trying to talk you up any, which I've been looking forward to this conversation, John, for a while. The last time I had a pizza that reminded me of that was I was sitting at Metro Pizza up off of Stephanie and Horizon
Ridge.
Yep. And I was up there and I ordered one of those, a pepperoni deep dish, one of your styles. And that was the closest pizza that I had to that moment right there. Probably as good or even better.
You know, and that's the challenge of being a pizza maker, is that we're competing against that memory. You know, so you can either choose to compete against it or you can collaborate with it. So my goal is always to be like, how do I create that? How do I reincarnate that memory for you when you come in? I'm not competing against that memory. I want to honor that memory.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little bit different mindset than us against the world, which is what the pizza business used to be like when I was a kid growing up.
So where did you grow up?
I was born in Brooklyn, and my family had pizzerias on Long Island in New York.
So there's a big difference between a Chicago style pizza and a New York style pizza.
There's a difference. There's a difference in the physical makeup of the pizza, but there's not a difference in the spirit of the pizza. There's not a difference in, you know what I mean? They're trying to accomplish the same thing. They're trying to bring people together. They're trying to be a reflection of the environment that they're located in. You know, I mean, if I go to San Diego, I don't want to eat Chicago deep dish pizza.
True.
Give me a pizza that's Chicago pizza works in Chicago because it tells you something about Chicago. It tells you something about the weather, the sociology, the people that grew up there. You know, what's going on in their kitchens at this very moment.
Yeah.
It's a constant evolution where, like, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to be a Disney version of some other city's pizza. What I'm trying to do is capture the essence of what makes all of those places great. Whether you grew up in eating pizza at Pepe's in New Haven, or Santarpio's in Boston, or, you know, Al Santillo's in New Jersey, the pizza itself is different because the pizza is a representation of the person that's making it. But the story that they tell is a similar theme. It's just unique to that person. I want to eat a pizza that tells me something about the guy that made it.
Okay.
John, I'm just amazed. Like, I'm just in awe. So I don't have a great story. So Adam already hit it out of the park. I'm bunting at the plate right now, John. Bunting.
Don't tell me your favorite Little Caesars moment.
No, it's definitely Pizza Hut. I worked there for a year. I delivered pizzas or delivered pies. And so my association with pizza was in the back. We tried different things. It was pizzas mean a lot of differently mean like three things for me. But hearing it from John, I feel like I just listened to like an Audible book on the sociology of pizza that I never even realized. Because so my oldest son is gluten free, and Domino's, we eat Domino's now all the time because they have a gluten free pizza. Number two, I worked at Pizza Hut, and it was a great opportunity for me to go at a certain point in my life. And I had so many cool adventures in my life because I delivered pizzas. Like, I don't really want to delve into those experiences here on the
Yeah, but
podcast.
that's part of the whole thing too. And I would never try to invalidate somebody's cognitive pizza experience, no matter what it is, whether it was Round Table or Little Caesars or Pizza Hut or Pizza Inn or Shakey's.
Oh,
All of
Those
those
are
places,
all
yeah, those are all memories. Now that you
all of
brought
those
it up,
places
John.
served a purpose. And if you go back to the history of pizza in America, until after World War II, there were no pizzerias outside of Italian neighborhoods. So, so
Really?
I think of Pizza Hut or Pizza or Shakey's as being like these kind of pizza evangelists, that they took pizza out of being an ethnic food and turned it into a universal American food.
Yeah,
So they served a
I can't
purpose.
imagine America without pizza now.
Right.
Oh, no.
So I mean, it's just like, people they downgrade Starbucks all the time. Like, oh, Starbucks is this corporate, Death Star to the coffee industry. But in most places in this country, there was no gourmet coffee business in this country before the 1980s, before Starbucks blew it up.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I look at it like your Pizza Hut experience was your your introduction to pizza. It's like if you're a wine snob, you didn't start out drinking Barolos and Brunellos. You started out drinking White Zinfandel,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that
Well-
introduced you because it was accessible and familiar, and you got comfortable with it. And then the next thing you know, you're drinking Opus One. I mean, that's just the way it is. Those places, your Pizza Hut experience is just as valid as somebody's experience if their first place that they wandered into was Frank Pepe's or Sally's in New Haven.
Mhm.
Another thing, John, is my third, when I thought about pizza, is my experience at Metro growing up here. And it's actually from being in college, going to UNLV. And my brother-in-law, Ben, loves Metro. And like one of the things is the garlic knots there, some of the other, not just the pizza, but a lot of other things on the menu. And so when I think about going to Metro, I'm trying to think, there's like I want to say it wasn't a meatball sub that he had there last time. But we just talked about it. Like it was such a, like, if I want to get on Ben's good side when he comes to town, I take him to Metro.
Yeah.
Because when he was going to school, Metro right there on Tropicana was down the street, and we would eat there all the time. And it's a bonding experience. And I think that's what you were alluding to is, Adam's experience was with his friends. And even when I was delivering pies, I was delivering it to people. Some of those people became my friends. And, pizza is really a food that, isn't a singular event. It really is a populous event. I never really realized that. And I love that philosophy that you just taught us.
In the pizza world, we say that pizza is a campfire and a time machine.
Wow.
Because when you eat a pizza, you sit around the pizza and you have a conversation with your friends and you reminisce and you remember the people that you ate pizza with. Just the aroma of the pizza brings you back to whether it was a memory of college or a memory of friends, sometimes friends that aren't with you anymore. And eating that pizza has a power to evoke that memory and bring them back to life. And it's such a powerful thing. And you mentioned that when Ben comes to town, you bring him to Metro Pizza. And that's something that's unique about pizzerias, is that they become such a touchstone that when you go, if you grew up in Chicago, when you go back to Chicago, the first thing you do is you're not really home until you went to your neighborhood pizzeria and touched. That's like touching home base.
Yeah.
and there are very few foods that have that kind of power of community, but with that comes responsibility of the pizza maker, because our job is to reinforce that and to re-evoke that.
So when did you start making pizza? Talking
I
about the
started
pizza
making
maker.
pizzas on September 7th, 1967.
Wow.
Was that the day you were born?
No, it was the day after I turned 13. I started working in my family pizzeria when I was 7. And in my family, they wouldn't let you make a pizza until you were 13. That was like coming of age.
Wow.
So when I went to the pizzeria, the day after I turned 13, I went in and I made a pizza with my uncle. And the very first pizza that I made got put in a box and got sold.
What pizza was it?
It was a cheese pizza. And I turned to my uncle and I said, "Wow, this is so cool. Somebody spent money for something that I made." And he said, "Yeah, and that's a responsibility, because something that you made is going to become part of somebody's body.
Wow.
And you have to,
That's pretty heavy.
Yeah, that
to
is.
lay on a 13-year-old.
Oh, for sure.
But until that moment, until that time, I was working in the family pizzeria, sweeping the floors and shredding cheese and washing dishes. And I hated it until that moment when I realized that there was something special about being a pizza maker. And I used to laugh because, like, when I was growing up, other kids would it was kind of like being a pizza guy was like a punchline to a joke almost. It was like, "Oh, what are you going to do? Sling pizzas the rest of your life?" I
Yeah.
always thought that was so weird because I was like, "Yeah, I hope so."
Yeah. Right.
That would be so cool. I mean, my dad is 92 years old and I get to work with him every day. How cool is that? How many people can say that?
Not many.
Very few. Very few.
If any.
You know,
So, John, how did your family make the transition from the New York area to Las Vegas?
my cousin and I came to Las Vegas on a vacation, and we were like 22 years old, 23 years old, and we fell in love with it. And we went home and we kept talking to our families about how great Las Vegas was and how bad New York was. And it was like 1978, 1979. And we were just bratty kids and we just kept harping on it. And one of my uncles found an ad for a pizzeria that was for sale in Las Vegas. And the guy that owned it advertised in an Italian language newspaper because he didn't want to have to train anybody. He wanted to sell it to an Italian that knew how to make pizzas already. And my uncle had this piece of paper. He cut it out. It was like the size of a fortune cookie ad, like a fortune cookie insert. And he held it in his pocket, all rumpled up. And the next time we said, "Man, New York is so cold and it's so dirty. We wish we could be in Las Vegas," he pulled out this rumpled up piece of paper and he threw it on the table and he said, "You're going to do something or you're going to talk about it?"
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And we called the guy up, and the place was still available, and he was willing to hold a note. So my cousin and I sold everything that we owned to get the down payment, including our cars. We found a guy in New York that needed a car driven to California. We drove out here in that car, drove it to LA, and took the bus back to Las Vegas. Gave the guy the down payment for the store. He handed us the keys, gave us his address because he was moving back to New York, and said, "Just send me my check every month. Goodbye and good luck." We never heard from him again. We sent him his check every month until we were paid off. We never heard from him. We never talked to him. He didn't even show us where the light switches were.
Oh, wow.
Where was the store at?
Yeah. Where was the
Domingo
store?
and Sand Hill?
Oh yeah. We're
Do
right
you-
down the street.
Do you still have it?
No, we sold that in 1999. We were there
Oh,
for
okay.
19 years.
And did it start as Metro or did you go under a different name
No,
and then develop?
that was an interesting part of it. We started out, we were called the Original New York Pizza, which is not a very original name. And the first customers that came into the store the very first day, and they're still customers of ours, were from Philadelphia. And they started talking about the pizzas that they loved in Philadelphia. And the next customer that came in was from Detroit. And they started talking about the pizza from Detroit. And, being from Brooklyn, we were like, "There's pizza outside in New York? Really?" We were shocked. And we realized that there were people out there from all over the country and all over the world that were just as attached to their hometown pizza as we were to our hometown pizza. And it was kind of, You know the way New Yorkers are, to be honest. It's like they think there's, nothing ever happened that was worthwhile outside of New York.
Yeah.
Oh, John, I like the honesty on this episode.
And
My family's from Brooklyn as well. So
Uh-huh.
my family moved out to Vegas in the 50s, and my grandparents never left, and we've been here.
That explains how loud you get.
Yeah, 3 generations
Yeah,
later.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and so that's that was the mindset. And then when it was this eye opener to us, and we realized right away, it was like, are we going to argue with these people we're going to argue with our customers about who has the best pizza and which pizza is authentic or valid and which isn't? Or are we going to just embrace the whole thing and learn as much as we can and start traveling and start opening up our possibilities and our horizons? And
Yeah.
instead of arguing with the customers, let's collaborate with the customers. Let's try to honor their memories too.
Is that why you
Their
have the big map on the wall in your restaurant?
Exactly. And the big map was our answer to, growing up in New York, it was like my family had a pizzeria, and there was a pizzeria across the street, and like we wouldn't even wave to the guy. You could be neighbors for 40 years, and it was like you wouldn't even acknowledge that they existed. And I mean, guys would do crazy. Everybody in the pizza industry in New York would peel the labels off their tomato cans and shred them before they threw their garbage out, because they didn't want the guy across the street to know what kind of tomatoes they were using, even though they were all using the same stuff.
Wow. Like pizza wars, man.
Right. So we didn't want to be a part of that. And to not be a part of that, the idea was, let's pay tribute. Let's honor all the great pizzerias around the country. They all have similar stories. Many times they're immigrant families that sacrificed to come here, sacrificed to open a business, tried to live out their dreams. So instead of being competitors, let's embrace the whole thing, and let's say, hey, yeah, there are great pizzerias in New Jersey or Boston or Sardis, Mississippi, or any place that you can think of. There's a pizzeria that touches somebody's heart, that means something to somebody. So let's embrace the whole thing instead of having that crazy argument about New York water or some nonsense, that somebody's come up with. Let's see what we can do to learn about the history and culture of pizza as it's evolved throughout the country and throughout the world, and offer that to people instead.
So that's why you came up with metro, like a metropolitan, like
right. The idea was metro, like it could be any metropolitan area.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's awesome. That's a good story.
yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We just go there for the food.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you think about the food, it becomes so much more than just flour, water, salt, and yeast, and tomatoes and cheese. If you think about it, and it becomes more gratifying. I don't know how much time we have for this, but I have a story to share with you.
Yeah,
No,
we have
please.
plenty of time.
All the time. It's yours.
I was doing a demonstration with a food historian from Naples, from Italy, from the birthplace of pizza. And we were staying at a B&B together. This was an event that we did in Chicago. And I got up in the morning, and this guy's name is Mimo. He's a very famous food scientist and artist in Naples. He's very popular. And he took out these coffee beans that he had brought with him from Naples, and he put them in a little hand grinder. And he ground the beans by hand. And he heated up some water, and he had a thermometer so that the water was exactly the right temperature. He brewed this cup of coffee, and he poured it into a little clear cup. And he held it up to the light before he drank it. It took him like 15 minutes to make this 3-ounce coffee.
Uh-huh.
And I said, Mimo, we would just put a Keurig cartridge into the machine and push the button. We'd have coffee in 30 seconds. And he said, yeah, that's because Americans eat like sharks. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, you move forward with your mouths opening and closing and consuming things without thinking about how they got there. And the result is that you have to consume more because you're not gratified. And if you thought about where the food came from and how it got there and all the lives that it touched to get to your cup or to get to your plate, you wouldn't have to eat as much. You wouldn't have to consume as much. And you'd be just as gratified or more gratified because you were thinking about it.
Wow. Man, this is some deep thought on food.
Yeah, John, I feel like I'm in a class like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's phenomenal because
So
that's
think about how
so true. That's so true.
think about how we fit into the world and what our responsibilities are to the world and to each other as brothers and sisters, you know, and that's part of making a communal food is how does it fit into your community? How, you know, how responsible are you? How much do you take upon yourself to share knowledge and to share the experience, to share a complete experience? And if you know, that's the key to longevity in this business, I think, is to be mindful and be thoughtful.
Absolutely. Well, the one thing I kind of miss it now. I haven't seen it since this pandemic has messed everything up, if in my opinion. But before that, one of my favorite things of coming to Metro Pizza is you got the calendar. And then if your birthday landed on one of those special days on what you were cooking on that day, you may get some free garlic knots or something like that. And it made you want to be there on those special days of your life. So the calendar was my favorite part, is you would read which day is what day is like breadstick day or pepperoni pizza day, or you had a special day for each day, and it made it a part of a little bit more than just getting dinner. You wanted it to be a part of your life.
Right. And that, you know, that's what we try to be. And, you know, I was fortunate. I grew up in a pizzeria in a town, and I lived in the town. When my family moved from Brooklyn, we moved to Long Island, and we lived in the town where my family's pizzerias were located. So everybody knew my uncles, everybody knew my dad, everybody knew my mom. You know, we were part of a community. And that's the problem right now, is that, you know, everybody's got one of these things. We're all so connected, but why are we all so lonely?
Huh. Yeah.
You know,
Well,
because
we're not working together. Like, you talk about that little phone, and we're here on a Zoom, but well, I think one of the greatest things we can do together is serve together. You talked about being the shark, and I could easily see how Americans can be observed as sharks.
Oh yeah.
But one of the great things, one of our greatest strengths is, yeah, when we put the phones down and pick up the shovels, or
that's
and
right. And we
so
have to never lose sight of that, is that, you know, when you pick up the shovels, when there's really work to be done, it doesn't matter what your religion is or what your color is or what your political stripe is. When we work together, that's when we really get stuff done. That's when we really accomplish things, you know, with a sense of community and a sense of responsibility to each other. And we need to get past all this vitriol and isolation and separation, and realize that the only way out is if we dig our way out together, grab the shovels.
yeah, we all drink the same
Absolutely.
water. When you were talking about the neighbors that smash and hide the tomatoes they're using, and come to find out it's the same vendors, just you coming off the same truck, it's growing
Yeah.
at the same farm. It's the same thing with us. At the end of the day, we're all drinking from the same water. We're putting them back in the same lake. We're all putting it, we're driving on the same roads, and we all have an opportunity to eat a lot of the same things, and it doesn't matter where we began or where we're going to end up. We're all in the same lane, actually. And, unfortunately, people lose sight of that. And it sounds like you're teaching a lot of people around you, and I love the fact that you're imparting that knowledge with us and to our listeners,
Yeah.
because I feel like I've already grown. Like, honestly, I mean, beyond the fun factor of going to Metro, now I want to find out where this was, talking about gratifying. When you're talking about it's gratifying, if you talk about all the hands that it's reached, is I always thought about when you're in Europe, you break bread, you literally break bread, you eat small portions. Whereas in America, you eat right off the food. You don't break it down. You don't take your time to eat it. You don't take your time to conversate with a person
Or think about it.
Yeah, you throw it down. And I'm a fast eater, so I'm guilty of that at times. But in life, I try to get better by picking up different little habits of maybe being able to break the bread and take our time. I even tell my kids, even with popcorn, eat a kernel at a time. It's way better than just taking the bucket and shoveling it in.
I don't know. Shoveling it's pretty fun.
You know, we have to take time to treasure each moment for the fact that it will never happen again. This conversation, you know, we may talk again a million times from from here going forward. But we'll never have this conversation exactly like this again, because the next time we speak, we're going to be different.
Yeah.
You'll be a different person. I'll be a different person. We're going to all three of us be different for having had this conversation. So when people say to me like, oh, your pizza was different today. Well, of course it was different today. I'm a different person now than I was yesterday.
Absolutely. And
I'm,
and they're different.
right. At this moment, I'm the sum total of everything that I've experienced over the last 66 years up to right now. The next time I make a pizza, I'm the sum total of everything I've experienced up to that moment.
Yeah.
So of course it's different. We're going to be different for having met each other.
So you're running how many restaurants do you have here in Las Vegas?
We have 5 plus the one in the airport, which we don't run, and we have one opening in the convention center, which we're not going to run all either.
Okay, so
licensed agreements.
So do you still sneak in the kitchen and make your own pizza, or are you still a part of that, or you kind of stay away from that?
Of course, I'm a pizza maker.
Yeah.
You know, I did a seminar in São Paulo in Brazil a few years ago, and I got off the pizza line at my restaurant, went to the airport, flew to Brazil, walked into this meeting room with about 300 pizza makers, and I talked to them about the spirit of making pizza. And one of the guests raised his hand and said, "Well, you have 5 pizzerias. When was the last time you made a pizza?" I was like, right before I got on the plane to come here. You know, I'm a firm believer in, there are pizza entrepreneurs, and and they have a place, and they're, that's valid, but I'm a pizzaiolo. I'm a pizza maker.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself to be a businessman. I don't consider myself to be an artist. I don't consider myself to be an entrepreneur. I guess you could make an argument that I'm a little bit of each of those things, maybe, but really I'm a pizza maker. I make pizzas. That's how I express myself. And, I have this opportunity every time I touch a piece of dough to not only tell the world who I am through my food, but also tell the world everything that I've learned and bring to life everybody who ever taught me anything, because it's all there. And so people, sometimes I'll meet young pizza makers that have been doing it for 10 or 15 years. And they're like, man, I'm so tired of making pizzas. I'm done with that. How could you be tired of it? Every time you touch the dough, it's different. It's a new experience. You have this new opportunity to tell the world what you value and what's important to you through the food that you touched. And then that touch, like my Uncle Knopf said, becomes part of somebody's body. How do you ever get tired of that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey, John, I have a quick question. So you rolled into town with your cousin. You guys had a great time in Vegas. I think it's actually a unique family dynamic that, being in Long Island, you worked for your uncles and your dad. You worked in a family business. And then you even start off the show like, hey, I still work with my dad. Do you feel like that part of our culture is kind of being lost a little bit? Or where do you feel like looking back, like, how do you teach people? Like, so often people don't want to work with family because, you can butt heads, and a lot of times they can't get past it. What are some of the lessons that you would, impart on someone for, it sounds like, growing up in that culture, that of course we're going to work with our family. We love our family. Why wouldn't we work with them?
Well, first, I guess it starts off, you have to choose the right parents.
Right.
And I think you have to look at the larger picture. You have to concentrate on the privilege of it rather, certainly there've been times when I've disagreed with my dad and I've been like, oh my God, my dad wants me to do this and I disagree. But in the end, he's still my dad. And I asked you at the beginning, what's your favorite pizza memory? And you guys shared that with me. My favorite pizza memory is that my dad used to work a day job and then work at the family pizzeria at night. So he would go off to work at 6 a.m. and he'd come home at 11 or 12 at night. So I usually didn't get to see him that much, but every night he would come into my room to kiss me goodnight, and I could smell the pizza. And I always associated that smell of that pizza with my dad's love for me. That my dad would work like that to try to make a good life for his family and make all those sacrifices. So for me, it was not difficult to make a choice to work with my family.
Yeah. So do you have any kids that are working in the business now?
I don't, but I have employees who are now partners that have been with me for over 25 years.
Mhm.
Some of them, two of the staff members, three of the staff members at the Decatur location have been with me over 30 years. So they're like my kids.
Yeah. Well, I know that that the people who end up working for you really enjoy it. I got to put a little plug in this. My daughter still works for you. She is a hostess up there at Stephanie and the Horizon Ridge, and she absolutely loves it. She's the one who told me, "Oh, you got to put him on your show. You got to do it, Dad." And she bugged me, and that's why I reached out to you to
Thanks.
to put you on the show. But the manager that's running that particular restaurant has treated my daughter tremendously, and she
Dave.
absolutely loves working for Dave. She loves being there. She loves the whole atmosphere, and I love it when she brings some pizza home. Every once in a while, she'll bring like a little personal one. She knows that I'm up still editing a podcast or working, and she'll bring one home after work. And
And that's part of that connection too. I mean, the connection between your daughter and us and you and our community, and the fact that this, and I don't know if it's her first job, but it might be one of her first jobs.
it was her first job when she was
Right.
16.
So we set the tone for what she's going to think of as a work experience for the rest of her life. That's something that really has to be thought about. Just like we have to think about the food, we have to think about the impact that we have on people's lives as well. We're with customers from birth to till the end in many cases,
Mhm.
especially now that we've been in town over 40 years. Some of the kids that were coming to my store on day one have grandchildren that they're bringing into the store now.
Yeah, absolutely. And my daughter's even said that there's been regulars. She knows, like on a Wednesday night, this couple's coming in, and she always tries to sit them at a particular table, and they come in every week, and they usually an older couple, and they love to sit at this table, and she accommodates them because they're a returning customer. She knows them by name. They know her by name. They know
Right, she probably
the
knows what they're
waitresses.
going to order. She
Exactly.
knows everything.
She can have the table set up and knowing that at 7:00 this couple is going to come in every night for dinner.
And that's the thing too. We hear so much especially from a lot of business operators, and I hear it from school teachers sometimes. When I was teaching at UNLV, I was teaching a course on pizza, and I would hear from the other teachers, "Oh, this generation of kids, they're horrible. It's I can't stand having to teach these kids." Or I hear from store owners or business people, how are we gonna survive with the generation of kids that are coming in the door?
Mm-hmm.
Suck it up. Take up, live up to your responsibilities. Nobody said it was going to be easy, but if you're a good and motivated teacher, whether you're teaching in an academic situation or you're teaching as an owner of a business, it's your job to find ways to motivate people.
Yeah.
Nobody gets up in the morning and says, I can't wait to go hate my job. They get up in the morning. They get up in the morning wanting to be inspired. And if you're too lazy to do that as a business owner or as a teacher, then find something else to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes out in the product. I mean, people love going to your pizzerias, and the reason why is because obviously you put a lot of thought into each one of those menu items in that pizza, and people can feel that, they can taste it, they know there's a difference there. There's a big difference there from a corporate pizzeria to something that's a lot more personal.
And what's really gratifying is this town is becoming recognized now as a great pizza city. It's not being recognized as much by the people that live here, but by people in our industry. Because I'm in contact with pizza makers from all over the world, and they're very envious of the camaraderie that we have in the independent pizzerias in Las Vegas, compared to other places. The fact that we all help each other and support one another and promote each other's businesses. That
Wow,
doesn't exist in
I,
anywhere else.
did you know that? I had no idea that Vegas was on the map of pizza.
Pizzas. Well, it's John. It sounds like you were spearheading that though when you guys came to town, and you said, "Hey, we aren't going to take on that same territorial aggressiveness like in New York. That you guys were going to set a different pace." And I don't know of any pizzerias that's been in town longer than Metro. And so,
Well, there's Villa Pizza.
oh, there is Villa.
Yeah.
Yep.
Villa, Villa was the founder of Villa, Carmine Vento, is a very good friend.
Mhm.
He opened in 1976, so he's about 4 years older than us. He now has his business is now called Carmine's Pizza Kitchen.
Yeah. I've been
Great
there.
place, awesome.
What-
The Vento family is amazing.
And there's a Vinny's in Boulder City, and I think he has a couple other places.
Yeah, and there's Verrazano. Verrazano's been around since
Yeah,
right around when we started. But when we came to town, I think there were 19 pizzerias in the whole city. And that
Okay.
included Pizza Inn, Shakey's, Round Table, Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Domino's
Shakey's.
wasn't around back then.
Yeah, Shakey's has been shook out, and Round Table has been rounded
They've
out.
been gone for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of the
But-
one I went to as a kid that had all the games, not Chuck E. Cheese, but like it was another place.
had all the games.
Yeah, it had games and it had
Round Table. Round
no,
Table
it
had
wasn't
games.
Round Table. There was one in Henderson that my dad used to take us to. The pizza wasn't very good, but it was mainly the whole ambiance
Pistol
of the
Pete's?
place. Pistol Pete's. That's it.
Yeah.
Pistol Pete's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any of
Oh,
those?
so
around?
and you
I
can't
have a great story with Pistol Pete's, but not for this episode. Well, no, actually,
you can't do that to us. You got to share.
Yeah,
your
right,
Pizza.
right.
So the owner of Pistol Pete's,
Uh-huh.
the location was off of Trop and Pecos, and the family that owned the family that owned Pistol Pete's. So originally, when I went there, I had a birthday party for my friend there. I gave him like the whole little kid experience,
Yeah.
and we were juniors or seniors in high school. And the girl that attended us thought it was just the coolest thing that I would do this for my friend. And we were high schoolers, and we were from the other side of town. And I'm like, yeah, this is fun. Anyways, I ended up becoming friends with her, and I ended up becoming friends with that family. And that family, I ended up becoming a roommate with that family's daughter's husband. And I ended up working as a valet at the Gold Coast, where the Pro Cowboys call home, because of my friendship with the family at Pistol Pete's. And so part of that is because I had a birthday party there, like you map it out that way. And I ended up becoming a roommate with my friend Kurt, and he ended up marrying Stephanie, and Stephanie's parents ran Pistol Pete's. And so same thing as Pistol Pete's, guess who worked at Pistol Pete's? All the family members and their friends from the neighborhood.
All worked at
Right.
the
So,
place.
so
all worked
even
at-
though
all
Pistol
worked
Pete's
there.
was more of a chain type pizzeria or a franchise pizzeria,
Yeah.
they still had the same spirit of community.
Yeah.
And that's why I never denigrate any of those pizza experiences, because when it comes down to it, somewhere in that chain of operation, there's a person, and
Yeah.
there are families that depend on that business, or depend on that for either for jobs, or because they're owners, or they go there for special times and their special family moments. So you can't invalidate any of those pizza experiences.
No, I've never seen anyone that has a frown on their face when there's a hot pizza in front of them. Everyone's happy. Something's happening in their life, and things are good at that moment when you have a pizza in front of you. And it's hard to picture or forget about those moments that you don't involve that kind of food. I had a health guy try to tell me once that you got to change your mindset of food and think of it like fuel. And I thought, man, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's like there's more to food than just as fuel for your body. He was right at a point. It is fuel, but food is like Well, we're going to celebrate it this week. Thanksgiving. It's bringing family together. It's bringing those moments together. There's more to around food. Like you were saying, you have a pizza, it brings back those memories, and it creates new memories at the time that you're eating there.
Right. I mean, you know, think about it, especially like Thanksgiving, everybody makes a turkey and they share that turkey. They cook together and they eat that turkey together. How many times a year do you make a turkey?
Once.
The whole turkey.
One time.
Once. It's a great experience, but it's not about the food. It's about the communal experience. You know, what it comes back to is, you know, if your friend says that food is fuel, food you get in a grocery store, but a restaurant is something else. A pizzeria is something else. When you go to the word restaurant comes from the word to be restored. And that doesn't just mean shoveling food into your gullet for fuel. It's a spiritual restoration as well. It's a recharging of your batteries. You know, it's uplifting your soul and reconnecting with your friends and your family and the people that you love. And food itself doesn't do that. A restaurant does that. That's why they're called a restaurant.
Wow.
Wow. My wife is going to love this episode, John, because she loves to, I am like an American shark a lot of times. And I go out to lunch. I go out to lunch a lot, and that's usually my going out, and she's at home. And so she's like, yeah, let's go out. And I'm like, oh, I've been out already. I drove across town already.
Well, she wants to go out and eat.
Yeah. She wants to go out and eat. She loves that experience. And I'm like, let's just go to Costco. I hear they have a great deal. And Costco by far is not a restaurant. But it's a great deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I actually look forward to eating out, John, and I hope our listeners, you know, have that same. I'm imagining to have the same feeling. Is, you know, I wish we would have had this talk earlier in my life, because it really does set up a tone and a pace of something that we don't think about so often. And you sit down to a table and we're thinking about the customer service. We're thinking about, and I do agree. Like, I know for my wife going out, the greatest part about that is restoring is like, hey, I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean, you know, and I can just enjoy the experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Adam even talked about his experience in Wrigley Field, and same thing. It's an experience. And so
Adam, you have to go back and find that place.
I want to. Matter of fact, one of the guys I was with was saying that it was one of the first pizza places in Chicago. I don't know if he was right or not, but it was very, very old. The other thing I remember, I failed to mention, when we sat down, we had to wait a long time to get in. Wasn't a very big place, and it was very popular. We finally sat down at a table. We ordered the pizza. The waiter or the waitress came in and took the pizza out of the pie and put it on our plates. We didn't do that. And they didn't leave the spatula there for us to do. So when we got done with our pizza, the waiter came back around and put another piece of pizza on our plate. So I just remembered that was the first time that that's ever happened to me, was that kind of service in a pizzeria. Usually when the pizza comes, you just kind of kill it, you know, and just go for it for yourself. But having that service, that was just something that was part of that memory.
Demonstrating that little extra level of concern. Demonstrating that little extra desire to be part of your meal.
Yeah. Well,
not just dump the food and walk away.
Yes, exactly.
That makes it become something completely different.
Well, the thing I got from it is that's how much they valued what they gave you. This pizza means everything to us, and we're sharing it with you. We're going to help take care of that. We're going to it's like handing over a little baby. You're not going to just throw someone your baby. You're going to softly hand it over to them. That's what they were doing to us. And it was a neat experience for me, you know, for sure.
Well, you know, I mean, in the days before we had social media, Instagram, Facebook, websites, and you know, all this electronic media, the way that we communicated who we were was through the food itself. And that was, you know, that was something really special.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to know who I am, I can't tell you on a business card. I can't tell you on Instagram, because all of those things can be manipulated. You want to know who I am? let me make a pizza for you.
Yeah.
Well, likewise, John, like if we were entertaining a client and they're like, hey, where do the locals go? And they're used, Metro is a place like that. You're like, hey, let me take you somewhere. And there used to be some hole in the wall Italian joints. There used to be some, we kid about Mikhail's, but we kid about all those little experiences as kids growing up here that, were all part of our experience. And, now the strip is known worldwide. It's got some glorious restaurants. I mean, just some phenomenal out of this world dining. But growing up here, you'd go here, you'd go there, and you'd walk in, and our parents, people would know who our parents were, or know who. Hey, little Adam, you've grown up so much, you're getting so big, right? And part of that experience. I did want to ask you, John. We didn't ask you. What is your favorite pizza experience?
I have so many. I have hundreds. I've traveled all over the world eating pizza, but one of my favorite pizza experiences was probably there's a place in Brooklyn called L&B Spumoni Gardens, and after we moved from Las Vegas, this was a place that, like, my cousin and I, when we wanted to sneak away from our parents and go eat a pizza, this was a place that we would go to. And about a couple of years after we moved to Las Vegas, we went back to New York for a little quick visit, and we were driving from the airport, and we were on the highway, and we said, let's go to L&B. And it was early in the morning. It was like 10:30 in the morning. We pulled up in their parking lot, and we knocked on the door. We knew they weren't going to be open. We knocked on the door, and we said, we're just going to be passing by here. We used to be customers of yours. We live in Las Vegas now. Could you make us a pizza? And the guy let us in, and there were two other customers sitting at a table, and they were customers of ours from Las Vegas.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And we said, well, what are you doing here? And they said, you caught us. What are you doing here?
That's an awesome story.
Yeah.
So, I have so many great memories that, it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. My life is like 6 degrees of pizza. It's like everything in my life is in some way connected to the pizzeria and the food. And I've been lucky enough to travel all over the world making pizza and meeting pizza makers. So it's been a pretty good life.
Oh, yeah. So if you were going to make a pizza for you tonight, what kind of pizza would you make?
If I was going to make a pizza for you tonight,
Yeah.
I would make a cheese pizza.
A cheese
It's a cheese pizza because there's nowhere to hide.
Great.
If you want to know the true skill of the pizzaiolo, you have to make a cheese pizza.
Okay. All right.
It's the most basic. It's the pizza that reveals technique. It reveals every ingredient. It reveals the touch of the pizza maker themselves, what they value, how they, the proportions. Everything has to be right for it to really be good. And there's no place, you can't fake it.
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's not
There's
a
nothing
novelty.
else on it. Yeah.
So it's like
That makes sense.
cheese and
My
tomato and
daughter
milk.
always orders cheese pizzas. Now I know why. So
It makes sense. It makes sense. I follow a guy on Instagram that does pizza reviews all the time. He's the owner of Barstool Sports.
Uh-huh.
Dave Portier,
Yeah,
whatever.
Portier.
Well, he always does pizza reviews all over the place, and he'll post them on Instagram, and then he has his own little One Bite app. So I like watching him. He's kind of a comedian. He has a good time with the pizza.
He's very
reviews.
clever.
Yeah, he is very clever, but he always does a cheese pizza. I've always noticed that wherever he goes, he grabs a cheese pizza, and that's how he does his reviews.
Yeah, because then it's a level bar. It's a level bar.
Yeah.
It's controversial because, let's face it, anybody can have especially when you're talking about a handcrafted product. From one pizza to the next, it could be completely different. So you can't judge a place. I know he says one bite and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's a novel way of doing it. But to really appreciate a pizza, you can't do it in one bite.
No.
Even when I judge
take more than one bite.
When I judge international pizza competitions,
Uh-huh.
everybody takes more than one bite.
Yeah.
You know, you take that first bite and there's that first impression. But if the pizza is really good, each bite is different and each bite is unique.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things in American food culture is there's this idea of conformity and consistency, which is very important. But it's also a form of, I call it culinary fascism, where everything has to be identical and everything has to be exactly the way it was the time before. And I think as a consumer, you should want to open yourself up to what I have to say right now, today, not compare it to what I did yesterday. You know, the worst thing that can happen to me is somebody comes in and says, "Wow, I love your pizza. It's exactly the way it was 40 years ago." And I'm like, "Oh man, I haven't learned anything in 40 years."
That's almost like
You
an
know?
insult, huh?
No, I
Yeah.
mean, if you're a musician, do you want to play the same song over and over again for 40 years and not change? If you're any
No.
kind of an artist, if you're any kind of an artisan, you know, if you're a cabinet maker, you want to make the same set of cabinets over and over again, exactly the same way. Hopefully, you evolve,
Yeah.
and also as a consumer, you evolve. The next time you guys eat a pizza, no matter who it's from, and there are dozens of great places in Las Vegas now, you'll be a different person. You're going to look at that pizza differently.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, for better or for worse, you may look at it more critically, or you may look at it with a new appreciation. Hopefully you'll do that. You know, what are some of your favorite pizzerias in town?
Well, I like the Vinny's up in Boulder City.
Uh-huh.
The guy who runs that place always comes out, always talks to us. He's very personable with all the guests that come in through the pizza place. So I've always enjoyed that, that pizza. I love going to Metro. I love going to a lot of the other, and I could tell a difference. There are times where it's like we do the Domino's or the Little Caesars type fast right now. Just I have a lot of kids, so sometimes we got to feed them and we got to feed them
It's okay.
fast. But there are times that I want that handmade pizza. I want that style of pizza. So then we go to there's one in Henderson that's close to the house, Sunset Pizzeria, right there on Boulder
Uh-huh.
Highway,
Sure.
close to the movie theater.
Been
Love
there for a
going in
long
there.
time. Great
Yes.
place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've gone in there many times as a family. We love the ambience of it. We love sitting down, having a good time with it. So yeah, those are some of our favorite places to go.
And
Eric,
how about you?
Eric.
So going back to, my son got diagnosed with gluten-free, John. So we unfortunately, that has shaped our family pizza eating, in the fact that we are like diehard Domino's now. Like,
Okay.
because
Are they the only place that has
Have
like
you-
gluten-free
no,
type stuff?
Have you been
Papa
to Good
John's.
Pie? Have you been to Good Pie?
We haven't been to Good Pie.
Okay, Good Pie does an excellent Detroit style gluten-free pizza.
Yeah,
It's really special.
my son loves when you're talking about dough, that's where, that's a lot of the key is Jersey Mike's. He loves Jersey Mike's. Like the bread at Jersey Mike's, the gluten-free bread at Jersey Mike's is not sugar laden and tastes wonderful. And but before that, I live close to Adam, and so yeah, we were at Sunset. When you're in a pinch, I loved in college, John, you have Metro. I went to school at UNLV, and then there was a Papa John's, and they had a college special. And when he was talking about killing it, like our roommates, I'm 6'2", John, and my roommate was 6'5", and we would just hold a tower of pizzas this high. And so we would throw those bad boys back like a pie a piece. And so
that's probably why we have weight problems today.
Yeah, that's well, yeah, back then I didn't have a weight problem. So but like I said,
there are
like
different pizzas for different times in your life too.
Yeah.
As
Well,
you know,
like I said, like
you're-
yeah, with Ben, going to Metro is an experience. You going last time I went to Metro, was with Ben, and then before that was with my wife, and we went there like on a date, and I think we went there to try new things. That's what's really great about your
We do have a
restaurant.
gluten-free pizza on the menu.
Well, we'll have
Well,
to.
you got to go try it
I
out.
guess we'll be
There
going
it
this
is.
weekend. It sounds like Saturday night we'll be at Metro Pizza.
But you got to make a reservation now.
Yeah, if any of our listeners would like to
Okay.
join us, we'll be making reservations for Saturday. So, but yeah, so that's my experience with pizza, is like just, knowing how long it takes, and listening to an artisan like yourself, John, whereas versus me as a kid, you know, when I was, working at Pizza Hut. And so, it makes me actually want to experience food and not just eat food. And I hope our listeners take that away. That same feeling I got from this experience is that there's so much more to, kind of the world around us. A lot of times I think, you talked about devices and Google, like all the answers are out there. And actually a lot of the answers are right here in front of us. And a lot of the answers you can't look up.
Yeah.
We have to figure it out for ourselves. And that's a
Yeah, I
part of
mean,
life that you can't be replicated in a computer.
definitely. If you look at a pizza and just think to yourself, what had to happen to get that pizza here? The sunlight, the rain, the farmer, the picker, the person who processed the tomatoes, the person who
Mhm.
processed the wheat, the person who delivered that food to the back door of the restaurant, the prep people that had to be involved in the careful fermentation of the dough. There's so much that had to go right to get that simple food to your plate. It's like a miracle, it's something, it's really something to be honored and respected. And then, of course, the hands of the pizza maker, which the hands of the pizza maker are joined together spiritually with the hands of the person that taught that pizza maker and the person that taught that pizza maker. So you have this unbroken link of artisanal skills that go back 2,000 years. And it's all there on the plate if you care, if you care to look at it. If you care to just get beyond just I like this or I don't like it, or I like this style of pizza and I don't like that style of pizza. And instead, if you look at the pizza and say, what is the story that this pizza is trying to tell me? What does it tell me about the person that made it? What does it tell me about the history of the food itself? What does it tell me about the place that it's being made in? It's there and it wants to tell you the story and be part of your life if you're willing to take the time and thought to delve into it, to dive in all the way.
Yeah.
Hey, John,
absolutely.
one last quick question before we go. We got to wrap up. So what was the conversation like when you got back and your clients got back to Las Vegas?
They're like, how did you find this? How did you find us there? I'm like, we love that place. And that's a whole other thing, to be able to say as a craftsman, to be able to accept that there are other people doing wonderful things opens up a whole new world. Because if you're not willing to admit that there's anybody else out there doing great things, you've stopped learning.
Yeah. Absolutely. Man,
So for us, the conversation was, well, we know that you loved it. Tell us what you loved about it.
Yeah. And that's fabulous. That's such a great story of like, honestly, I think learning from a master like you is that it gives me a lot of hope. I love everything that you talked about today, John. Just being like, hey, you always got to be learning. There's just a lot of times we talk about that. And I like the fact that, you're like, hey, I'm a pizza maker first and foremost. And then I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman. I'm a successful businessman. And so just knowing that you love what you do. And that's what I tell people. I said, if you love what you do, then if you love what you do, you'll be successful.
absolutely.
No matter what you do.
My dad told me when I was a kid, anything that you're doing, whether you're going to do it for the rest of your life or not, do it in a way that they miss you when you're gone.
Man, that's great advice. That's great advice. Man, John, we appreciate you coming on the show and telling
Thanks
us
for the invitation.
a little bit more. I'm definitely more of going to be a food thinker.
Yeah.
Like the next time I have a pizza, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same. And I'm looking forward to it already. So Thank
How
you so
about this? When this plague blows over, let's get together and make a pizza together.
much.
Oh.
We're on. We are so on. I would love to do
Okay,
that.
cool.
Love to do that. We'll definitely keep in touch.
John, I was hoping you would offer that. I was going to ask for that anyways, but now that you offered it, made it all that much more excited for the
Great.
wait.
Thank you
Awesome.
so much for sharing
Thank
us your story and getting deeper into this awesome subject of pizza, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Man, I'm hungry already. Thank you so much
And,
for
you know,
coming on.
Find a great local pizzeria that you haven't been to and support them.
Yes.
Now, I mean, of
Okay.
course, I always want you to eat at Metro Pizza, but you know, there's so much going on right now in this town in the world of pizza. So many really good practitioners. Explore them all.
Yeah. Thank you so much, John, for coming
Okay.
on the show. And thank you for everyone that listens to the show. We'll see you later.
Okay.
All right.